What's good, what's up, play family? It's your boy Christian, CT, Christian Mingles, whatever you want to call me, for another edition with what is now being dubbed the MinglesCast. All right, this is my solo project that I will be continuing to work on for you guys based off whatever I decide to talk on, whether it's for that week, every other week, for the month, you never know. But for this week, last week we did a Commanders overview based off the trade deadline, trading Chase Young and Montez Sweat away. Even though we won this past week, does not change my feelings on the trade deadline as a whole. But good to get a win under our belt as a team. Sam Howell continued to make strides and show that he may be quarterback of the future. So, all in all, good week for the Commanders, I guess. All right. Talking about quarterbacks, the theme of this episode will be checking in with the rookie quarterbacks from the 2003 NFL draft class, all right? So let's jump right into it. So to start, Bryce Young, number 1 overall pick from Alabama, went to the Panthers, and to say the least, it's been a bit of a struggle, all right? So for Bryce Young, a lot of the things that you'd like to see just have sound production from a number 1 overall pick, even regardless of the situation that he's in. It's just not really showing up that often. He has 1,300 passing yards on the season, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks, and a 29.5 QBR. And in this past game against the Colts, it was rough. 24 for 39, a little bit over 100 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. It was a poor showing for him. He threw 2 pick sixes, both to Kenny Moore. And this is a bit of concern for me personally. The Panthers franchise as a whole, I don't think they should hit the panic button, of course, because this is still somebody that they believed in enough to take number 1 overall. But Bryce Young has struggled greatly, and you do not have the draft capital or the receiver talent immediately to give him the assets that he may need. You'll probably have to go try to find somebody in free agency. You didn't really make any moves at the deadline to try to give him any assistance of note. And the draft is coming up, but you don't have your first-round pick because you traded it to the Bears alongside DJ Moore and your first-round pick from this year. So they're in a bit of a rough situation. For Bryce Young, a lot of the stuff, it seems like he may just be overthinking things. I think he needs to go back to the drawing board in the offseason, really evaluate and look at what worked when he was at Alabama, and try to replicate those things with his QB coach, OC, head coach, whoever it is. Try to replicate those things and put them into the process at when it comes to the Carolina Panthers, because he had success in college with, Alabama is still a top school, but they didn't necessarily have the receiving talent his last couple of years there to where it was you could say that the quarterback was being carried by the receivers. This wasn't the Mac Jones situation or Tua situation where they had 4 first-round receivers on one roster. No, Bryce Young was making do with what he had there, and it wasn't, I don't want to call it scraps, but it wasn't the best pieces around him at the time, especially considering the type of caliber of school Alabama is. But for Bryce, he struggled greatly so far this season, and I'm looking forward to hopefully just turning the page on this season. I don't think it's too late for him to turn around this year, but a full offseason of work with the OC and head coach, because there's no other options for them. They don't have their first-round pick. They're not an attractive destination for any free agents, and there's not really any free agent quarterbacks available. So stick it through, Hopefully he'll figure it out next year. I'm not completely out on him yet. I'm a bit worried, though. He's made some overthrows, some bad throws, a lot of turnover-worthy plays where it's a bit head-scratching. So maybe he just heads back into that film room. I feel like a lot of that could be resolved eventually. But I don't want to say the season is a lost cause, but a lot of the issues you just might have to try to work out in the offseason. Rooting for Bryce, though, hoping that the Panthers can continue to try to figure things out. He seemed to have a nice or a decent rapport with Adam Thielen towards the beginning of the season, slowing down a bit recently. Maybe get some of the young guys in there. Terrace Marshall has disappointed me a little bit. But Jonathan Mingo, maybe you try to get him going. But yeah, the running back room, Miles Sanders has been a disappointment. So you haven't really had much help from the running game for a young quarterback. And I can't understand why they tried to bring in a proven running back over the offseason. Miles Sanders has been a decent, serviceable running back for his entire career. And you'd like to have a decent enough run game for your rookie quarterback to lean on. But that just has not been the case for Bryce and the Panthers so far. Miles Sanders has either been hurt or ineffective when he has played. Chuba Hubbard has received a majority of the touches over the past couple weeks. I know because I have Miles Sanders in fantasy, and I'm a little scared to drop him, but it's like he's not even giving me the production to the point that he's even worth being rostered at this point. But Chuba Hubbard, he's been decent at times, but he's still, he's not a top-level back who can carry a young quarterback. So hopefully they figure things out with the running back room for the rest of the season. I feel like that is something that may be able to be fixed. Maybe you can get the run game going, really lock in, hone in on the O-line, focus on the run game. But if not, Bryce, keep your head up, keep working. I hope I don't see any rumblings of any benchings coming anytime soon. But these type of performances repetitively could lead to that type of conversation, especially when you have a serviceable quarterback in Andy Dalton. But hopefully Bryce figures things out going forward. All right, let's move on to the next quarterback. C.J. Stroud, number 2 overall pick in the draft to the Houston Texans. And he has been all that you could ask for and more from a rookie quarterback. He is having one of the best rookie seasons in NFL history. And I saw somebody say earlier that he is legitimately in the MVP conversation as a rookie quarterback with the Texans. For him to have them at 4-4 in the race for the playoffs, in the race for the division, it's very impressive, all right? And you have a guy who coming out of college, a lot of people were just saying that he's a safe quarterback. You don't really see the high ceiling, high upside. He's showing the high ceiling, high upside throws. The accuracy that we all knew would be there once he got there is showing up at the next level. The arm talent that you may have questioned, it's good enough. The improvisational skills I've seen, they even had a play this week where they ran a triple option where he was first and third option. Handed it off to the running back pitched it back to him. He was able to take it for a first down. That type of stuff we're not anticipating C.J. Stroud doing from the college level. And we see it in the pros. We saw a little bit of it in the Georgia game, but it's like, was it fool's gold or is this actually who he is at this point in time? This is actually who he may be. And he's done amazing this season. 2,200 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. 1 interception for a rookie quarterback through the first half of the season. It's much more than impressive. I think most people can say that they are genuinely moved by the performances that C.J. Stroud has put on. On Sunday against the Buccaneers in a shootout, got the ball with 40 seconds left, drove them down the field, down 4, scored a touchdown. The connection that him and Tank Dell have is impressive. He has turned Nico Collins into a number 3-ish receiver, somebody who looks like they may have high-end number 2 to low-end number 1 receiver upside. Dalton Schultz, one of the better tight ends in the league so far this year. The running game has not necessarily been to the point where it's aiding him to the point. So it's like he's doing a lot of it without a strong, dominant run game. It's more than impressive. Like I mentioned on Sunday, he drove him down, but the numbers itself, 30 for 42, 470 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. The sheer numbers that you're hearing here is, you don't expect this from a rookie quarterback. I'm lost for words just explaining the type of performances he has been able to put on. He beat the NFL rookie passing yard record by, I think, like 30 yards. And just to see the performances that he has put on over the the whole season, really. I mean, he's had a couple games where he's looked like a rookie, but even in those games, he's not turning the ball over. He's not making your team lose the games. I could say that he's a top 10 quarterback right now. Let me know in the comments if you disagree, but I can't think of any reason why C.J. Stroud wouldn't be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL at this point. You get to the list and you look at names like Kirk Cousins, who are probably in that 10 range. It's like, so far this season, what is C.J. Stroud shown me that he can do or that he can't do that a quarterback like Geno Smith can't do? Geno Smith can do or Kirk Cousins can do, He's up there with those type of guys, day one. And, I think he does have the upside that you can rely on. I'm genuinely impressed, genuinely looking forward to how he goes forward in the next 8 or 9 games, I believe, that they'll be playing. Next quarterback that was taken, Anthony Richardson. We all know that he suffered the AC sprain, the shoulder injury a few weeks back, so he is out for the remainder of the season. When he did play, though, I liked what I saw. I could say that he was the second best in the class so far. Of course, the injury is unfortunate. He got injured a couple times, and that's not what you like to see, especially when you have a mobile quarterback. But for him to be as solid as he was day one, especially with the rushing ability, the Colts were able to take much advantage of that. For him to be as solid as he was day one, I've said from the start, he was my QB1 in the last draft, and it was basically solely based off the traits that he possessed as a quarterback. 6'5", 250. That was 4.4 speed. Strongest arm in the class. Everything else I was hoping would develop over time. And I think we saw things this year that showed that there's a track for development here, especially with this coaching staff who seems to buy into what he does as an athlete. Of course, the injuries, I hope that those just fizzle out eventually. Hopefully next season he has a healthy season. But the developmental track that he is on, I could see that the Colts have him on the right track. And I think a lot of people were worried with the Colts because coming into the season, they weren't the best roster on paper. But at the same time, it's like, just take advantage of the assets that you had. Jonathan Taylor wasn't there, but you had Michael Pittman. Try to get Michael Pittman going in the passing game. You had Anthony Richardson really going in the running game. You had the running back step in, Zach Moss, who was able to really take the running game to a level that you didn't think they would see without Jonathan Taylor. So, all in all, Anthony Richardson, not going to spend too much time on him. But, for him to only play a few games, I like what I saw, and I think the Colts also like what they saw. Of course, the injury was unfortunate, but they have a serviceable backup in Gardner Minshew, who has stepped in, able to help them win a few games. And next season, Anthony Richardson will be able to learn from the sideline. Of course, coming into the season, a lot of people were saying that Anthony Richardson may not even be a day one starter. So he can still learn while not getting the in-game reps, and that was something that I would have liked to see anyway. So he's getting the learning experience from the sideline. He's still in the QB room, in the meetings, making sure that he's staying up to date with whatever they're installing, stuff like that. So I think the developmental track he is on should have him on the fast track to success. Looking forward to his growth over the years. Now here's where it gets a bit interesting. Will Levis, fourth quarterback taken in the draft. The Titans selected him. And coming into the season, there were questions about Will Levis, 24-year-old quarterback coming out of Kentucky. Really traits-based quarterback as well. He didn't really have the production on field to match the other of mainly the top two, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. So you questioned really whether he was ready day one, but at the same time, he's 24 years old, so you kind of want to get him on the field immediately. And he came into preseason as QB3 behind not only Ryan Tannehill, but also Malik Willis. And if you watched the Titans last year, whenever Malik Willis showed up, it was not a pretty sight. So it was a bit concerning for not only myself, but I'm sure also Titans fans, for them to see that Will Levis was third on the depth chart. He was injured towards the beginning of the season, so he wasn't active. Malik Willis was QB2. Ryan Tannehill ended up getting injured. Malik Willis stepped in during that game. And then Mike Vrabel made the change 2 weeks ago to make Will Levis the starting quarterback against the Atlanta Falcons. So, Will Levis made his debut and arguably played one of the better quarterback games in the entire NFL against the Falcons. 238, 4 touchdowns, no picks against the Falcons. You could say they didn't have the film on him, but he genuinely was making throws that you would like to see from a quarterback with his type of arm talent have. He was really targeting D-Hop. I think D-Hop had, 3 touchdowns. And the type of throws that he was making are not throws that Ryan Tannehill could make. So a lot of the stuff that the Falcons may have been seeing throughout the week, whether it was the offense with Tannehill, the off-platform throws, the across the field throws that Will Levis was able to make, I don't think they were seeing that in the Titans film study. We haven't seen that type of dynamic quarterback play from the Titans in years. So for them to be able to integrate Will Levis in with a week of practice as a starter, and they had a game plan where he could have success, I'm genuinely impressed by the performance that he put on that week. Then the following week, played the Steelers. I don't want to say it went bad. He honestly looked like he looked good as a quarterback. on the field. And the thing with Will Levis is he is a trade C quarterback. So a lot of the pure pocket movement, the pinpoint accuracy, that's not his game yet, right? So arm talent, he has the ability to throw the ball 70 plus yards down the field. He can scramble as well. He has the legs to get out the pocket. We have not seen that as much this season. But from what I saw in that game against the Steelers defense, this is a Mike Tomlin coach defense. They lost the game, but he ended up having a pretty decent stat line. He drove them down the field towards the end, ended up throwing an untimely interception that ended up, of course, having them lose the game. But for him to be able to put up, 262, one pick, no touchdowns, but he was moving the offense for the most part. There wasn't really much stagnation with the team. And I feel like for what you expected from him, this type of performance was about on par or honestly exceeded the expectations that a lot of people may have had based off the preseason rumors that were attached to his name. The QB3 talk about him behind Malik Willis. We hadn't seen Malik Willis play this good in the Titans jersey since he was drafted, So if this is the bar for Will Levis, I think he could surpass this. But even if he stays here, this is not something that you need to worry about. Simply because, just like I was saying with Bryce Young earlier, if you have a full offseason in the offense, in the system, I feel like you're just bound to improve. And Will Levis hasn't showed me anything to where I feel like he is not capable of being a NFL starting quarterback. So yeah, full offseason, and he's still able to perform this season. I'm really intrigued to see what he does. I picked him up in fantasy. I'm intrigued. I want to see how he can grow from these two performances, these two decent performances. One really strong one, and I can say that one really decent. All right, so just to see where he grows, where he goes from this point, very interested. So we got the top 4 quarterbacks down: Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. Right. So we saw the return of Aiden O'Connell as the Raiders starter. We saw Jaren Hall make his debut as the Vikings starter. That did not last long, though, because he suffered a concussion, I believe, in the first quarter. Really unfortunate. And Joshua Dobbs came in and took over, won them the game, so I don't know if we're going to see much of Jaren Hall down the line unless of injury, knock on wood. So, Jaren Hall, debut, not much to talk about there. Aiden O'Connell, steadying the Vegas ship, I could say. He made his debut against the Chargers. Did not go well. Khalil Mack, I believe, had 5 or 6 sacks on him. And I don't know if that was the best front to put him up against in his first start. Aiden O'Connell's not really a mobile quarterback, but like I just said, he's steady. He's steady in the Vegas ship. He can make throws over the field, across the middle, to the boundaries. And as long as he can get the ball into the playmaker's hands, I think the Raiders will have success. They were able to beat, of course, a Giants team that has not been good this season. But all in all, a win is a win, especially coming off firing your head coach, offensive coordinator, all in the same week. So Antonio Pierce was able to rally those boys. Aiden O'Connell was able to lead the offense to a win. They put up 30 points. So I don't think he's a long-term option in Vegas. I think they'll be in quarterback selection position next in the draft coming up. But Aiden O'Connell, for all that he is, maybe he's a steady backup to a fringe starter for the next 10 to 15 years of his career. And if you can get that late in the draft, I say go for it. You never know. Take all the shots at the dartboard that you can. They took him for a reason. You don't just take quarterback for no reason. Clearly, Jimmy G has not been the option in most places. He's not the option here. He's not the answer. Stuff like that. And then Brian Hoyer, veteran backup. That's all he should be. He should not be the long-term starting option. You shouldn't start more than a few spot games in a season. So for Aiden O'Connell to come in, look pretty decent in this past week, and really improve on the mistakes that he made in the first game against the Chargers, being able to get the ball out of his hands quickly, get the ball to his playmakers. Devontae Adams still didn't have a big game, but hopefully that connection will grow over time. Devontae Adams can hopefully be happy there, having the production that he would like to see for himself. And he has the targets, Jacoby Myers and Devontae on the outside, Hunter Renfrow. Jacoby Myers also works on the slot as well. Michael Mayer at tight end. There's options there. Josh Jacobs out the backfield. there's things there that he can work with, that he can be steady, solid for the rest of the season. My only concern is that if he is too solid for the Raiders, whether they are out of prime quarterback position or where they'll have to trade up. Because like I said, I don't think he's a long-term option, but I could see where, he could accidentally win them a few more games throughout the season, just by being steady. A couple more rookie quarterbacks made starts this week. Tyson Bagent for the Bears. I think the era is over. Whenever Justin Fields is healthy, I believe he will be getting his job back as soon as he gets back. Bagent looked pretty rough this week against the Saints. He had 3 picks, I believe, 2 or 3 picks. Offense was able to put up 17 points, but the mistakes were at the wrong times, and they were repetitive. They were like back-to-back possessions almost. So those type of mistakes cannot happen for not only a young quarterback, but a quarterback trying to prove himself in the league. He's had games where he's looked like he could be a decent, backup option for some teams. But this past week against the Saints was very rough. So I don't know if Justin Fields is going to be healthy by the Thursday night game. But if not, I guess we'll get at least one more look at Bagent to get a firm view on who he is as a quarterback. Clayton Tune made his starting debut for the Arizona Cardinals as well. And this one was rough. So the Cardinals took a big loss. Clayton Tune, I think they really just wanted to get him out there to see what they had behind Josh Dobbs all year. And before Kyler comes back, Kyler's coming back this week. Good thing on his recovery. They did things the right way. I feel like they didn't rush him back. They understood that this was a season that they weren't going to be playoff contenders, Super Bowl contenders. And now they get their quarterback back. They're able to get a extended look at him before they could potentially have a top pick in the draft. I've told you before that if they get that number 1 pick, it is very possible that they move on from Kyler. But I do like that they are giving Kyler a chance to, have this stretch of games in front of him. And maybe he can put together some wins to where they're out of contention for a quarterback, Kyler's a very talented, very skilled quarterback, top 10 talent, as long as he is healthy, He's battled injuries, knick-knack injuries over the past few years. But this past torn ACL, of course, you hope that this isn't something that holds him back. Hopefully he is fully recovered and he's not rushing back. And he is able to perform to the level that we can expect from Kyler Murray. So Clayton Tune struggled in his debut. I think the Cardinals really wanted to see what they had because he performed pretty decently in preseason. But at the same time, they still made the move to bring in Josh Dobbs. I don't think they were ready to see him week 1. But this week, it was a struggle for him. Kyler is back, so they don't really have to worry about it. But I do think they kind of wanted to see Clayton Tune at least be a solid spot option. Going into the next season, he may just be the backup for them. And you still want to know what you have in your backup quarterback, just so you're not blind to when they come in the game. If the quarterback does go down, if you need him for a spot start, you want to know what your backup quarterback can do, what he's comfortable with in the offense, the type of throws that he's comfortable making, stuff like that. But I don't think Clayton Tune gave the Cardinals that type of look. So unless he's able to get some more playing time in this season, we may not see more of him till the preseason next year. So I believe that's all the quarterbacks that made a start this week. Tommy DeVito for the Giants is probably going to get the start next week because Daniel Jones tore his ACL in that game, and Tyrod Taylor is also on IR. Tommy DeVito coming in looks like a late round to undrafted quarterback, honestly. Maybe they'll put together a game plan for him this week to where he can have some success. But I believe I've covered all the quarterbacks who have played this season, all the rookie quarterbacks. If not, leave me a note in the comments. But this was just a mid-season check-in. We may do this again towards the end of the season. But I take great pride in talking about the young quarterbacks, the quarterbacks coming into the draft. And this class, I can say, has the high moments, has the very low moments. But I feel like if quarterbacks like Bryce Young, Will Levis are really able to figure things out, this could be a very strong quarterback class. And I'm interested to see how they grow over time. But that being said, it's been another edition of the MinglesCast. I'm Christian, and be sure to stay tuned for the next play.